Hello, welcome on in. It's Betting Weekly Game Bet Match, and after 2 weeks of action in New York, we are back with our final Betting Weekly Game Bet Match on the US Open. It's the men's singles final between Jannik Sinner, the number one seed, and the number one American Taylor Fritz. To look ahead to the match and go through all the best bets and all the stats, it's our senior ATP Tour handicapper. It is Sean Calvert on a very cold, a very wet, and a very early Saturday morning. How are you, Sean?
I'm all right, I think, for this ungodly hour. Yeah, not bad. It's easy that cold. It's not. I think freezing. I'm all right here.
I am absolutely freezing. Yes.
I got a t-shirt on. Look, I'm not.
I've got about 3 layers. Freezing, cold. I'm tired. I haven't had a
That's
shave.
That's more like it. That's more like it.
I haven't had my first cup of coffee. This is all because of producer John wanted to get an early start. It's unbelievable.
I know. This is what we do, isn't it? This, to help people out. Put ourselves in this position where we're doing it early doors. It's because if you're tired, that makes you cold, doesn't it? So, it is a bit tiring, I guess, going from New York and back. But we're all professionals here.
Yep.
So
seasoned pros. Did you stay up and watch the tennis last night?
No.
You must have watched the Draper game and then gone to bed.
Sinner Draper, yeah. I mean, if I'd have done, I knew we had to record this at 9 a.m. If I'd have watched the other one as well.
Yeah,
it's only just finished, hasn't it? Only finished about 4 or 5 hours ago. So there'd have been no chance of me recording this at 9 o'clock in the morning. So I didn't see any of the Fritz Tiafoe match. The over double faults bet cashed, didn't it? For anyone that was on that,
easily as well.
I think Tiafoe hit 9 on his own, didn't he?
Mm.
So yeah, anyone that managed to get on that would have had a nice winner. But no, it's not really feasible for me to stay up till 3 o'clock in the morning watching tennis, and then do a show at 9 a.m. It's not. You might be able to do that, but I think
I woke up about 4:30 and put on the phone to see that Tiafoe had thrown it away and Fritz had won in 5 sets. But I haven't watched the game. I'll look at the match now. Look at the breakdown of the match now. But I did watch the Sinner Draper match, and I must admit, for a 3-setter, it was quite a brutal affair, wasn't it? Big hitting.
Yeah, I mean, Draper makes anything look brutal, doesn't he? I mean, I talked about it on the live show yesterday. It's just that physicality. He's not really capable of doing it, is he? I mean, he does. I think the problem with Draper is that he puts a massive effort into his shots, into his game, and sooner or later he gets. Even he was exhausted after 1 set of that match yesterday. It wasn't that hot. I mean, it was 25 degrees, which for US Open standards, that's not hot. All right, it was a bit humid, but. He was absolutely. How many times did he change his shirt and his trainers? He was soaking wet by the end of the first set. He looked absolutely dead after the first set, and Sinner was a little bit generous, I think, and a little bit profligate in many ways. He should have broken Draper about 3 times in that second set. Ended up going to a tiebreak. Draper was thrown up on the court numerous times. It's the same. It's the same thing with Draper, isn't it? That I talked about. It's that physicality that whether he just isn't able to do it, or whether he just needs, to look at things a different way in terms of his physical training or whatever, nutrition or whatever it is he does. He needs to sort that out really, because it's kind of holding him back a bit.
Yep, that was a brutal match, but Jannik Sinner came through in 3 sets and obviously had less court time than the 5 sets played by his opponent in the final, Taylor Fritz, who's been bidding to become the first American since Andy Roddick in 2003
it's
to
Andy.
win the Andy Roddick in 2003 to win the US Open men's singles title. And that's Taylor Fritz who come through that match against Tiafoe. That was an epic match as well. Obviously, I haven't even watched the match yet, but I broke down looking at the stats and the times, and you're going to think that Sinner will come onto this court a little bit fresher, given that Fritz's exertions in that match and also the match against Zverev as well. Before we go into that, let's have a look at the match odds with Bet Rivers. Sean's going to give us the conditions, the weather forecast, and what we expect to find on Sunday evening. Jannik Sinner is the favourite. He's minus 345, which is no surprise. He is the number one seed. He's only lost twice on a hard court this year. He's had a brilliant season, 31 wins and only 2 losses on a hard court. And Fritz has got to play the game of his match of his life to beat Sinner here. Plus 275 is Fritz. The spread is 4.5 minus 125 for Sinner, giving up the 4.5. The plus 4.5 start for Fritz is plus 104. The total here 38.5, which on my first glance I think if you're going for an angle, total could be the one that you want to go for. But Sean will give you the breakdown on that. The two of them have played twice before. They met in 2023 in Indian Wells. Sinner won in 3 sets, 6-4, 4-6, 6-4. And they also met in Indian Wells in 2021 where Fritz won 6-4, 6-3. But it's a very, very different Jannik Sinner now. He's coming in as Australian Open champion. He's winning to win his second major of 2024, and Fritz has all the pressure on his shoulders. I suppose the best thing for Fritz is that he knows the crowd are going to be on his side in this match. It's going to be quite a volatile atmosphere for Sinner. The Americans are praying for blood. And, Sinner here, he has had problems in long matches before, and I suppose that's the strategy for Fritz here, getting him into a long grind, get that crowd behind and see what we can do.
Yeah, I mean, a lot will depend on how Fritz does shape up physically after that 5-setter. I mean, I didn't see it, but I've read the match reports and seen a few little highlights. Pretty epic battle from all accounts, Fritz against Tiafoe. He obviously had to come from 2 sets to 1 down, which is a big mental effort as well as physical effort. And just the occasion of that match, you would think that would take quite a bit out of him. Plus the Zverev match as well, which was another huge match for Taylor Fritz. So physically, you got to be a little bit concerned about Taylor Fritz. But is Jannik Sinner fit? You know, he fell over on that. I don't know whether people saw, but he fell over on his wrist trying to retrieve. I don't know why he was doing it. He was 40-love down, I think, in that game, if I remember rightly. Sinner, Draper was bossing this rally to win the game. Sinner's gone for a real retrieval there and sort of collided with something at the back fence and fallen over on his left wrist, and his weight has gone on his left wrist there, and he didn't look too great for a while. I don't know whether you saw that, but I'm just not sure how that's...
I didn't think he looked great throughout the match. I know he did enough to win him,
but he never does he?
He was breathing quite heavy, and he looked a bit exhausted at stages. And it shocked me when you said earlier it was 25 degrees because he looked like
hot.
He was
humid.
Like he was struggling as well. I thought if Draper took that second set, I thought, you know what, this could be a battle of the fittest between when it was anyway. But,
which would have been Sinner, because Draper was dead, wasn't he, by the end of the second set? Definitely the end of the second set, arguably at the end of the first set as well. But that would worry me if I was backing Sinner at minus 345. Yeah, he never looks like the toughest of physical specimens, does he? I mean, if you imagine someone like Nadal having that fall, he would have just got up and got on with it, even if it hurt. I mean, Sinner he's a bit like Djokovic in that sense. Any tiny little thing like that, it just seems to be a big problem. He's not the fittest, well, not the fittest. He's not the strongest of physical specimens, is he? That's what would worry me. I'm going to assume he's okay as far as that wrist is concerned, because he did play another couple of set and a half after that. It's obviously his left wrist, so it's not his forehand wrist. It's obviously the good wrist, if you want to call it like that, to get an injury on. He didn't seem to have too many problems for the rest of the match, so let's assume that's okay. Because the problem with betting these finals is there's a lot of imponderables, aren't there, in terms of fitness, injuries, fatigue, all that stuff, which is one of the reasons why they're not ideal betting mediums. But obviously this is a massive match and people will want to bet it. As far as the matchup is concerned, I don't think Fritz will mind this matchup for me. I think they're very similar styles. Aggressive baseliners, like to get the big serve, big forehand into play and dictate the rally from there on their own terms. I feel like Sinner's got to change it up a little bit for me. Sinner, he does have that sort of net game and the variety, but he doesn't really use it very much. Against Draper yesterday, I don't recall Sinner hitting a single drop shot. Draper hit a few, but I feel like Sinner he's trying to hit through everybody from the baseline. And he's been extremely successful at it. I can't be critical of him because it's worked, and he's the top guy, the number 1 seed. But against Fritz, that's what Fritz likes. Fritz doesn't like people giving him the variety, the little drop shots, the short slices. Fritz is very, very happy moving side to side on the baseline and trading with these guys, with Sinner. So I think Sinner's going to have to change something up a little bit. Bring Taylor Fritz into the net. Tennis is all about putting the ball where your opponent doesn't want it to be. And from Taylor Fritz's point of view, that's short slices in the net. He doesn't want to be there. So that's where Sinner should be putting him if he can. And if he's comfortable doing that. Because if you look at the head-to-head, as you said, it's 1-1. Both played at Indian Wells, where it is slow, high bouncing, slightly different conditions to here. But across those two matches, in terms of the service points won and return points won totals, it's actually Fritz that leads 101 to 99. And Sinner's only won 41% of second serve points across those two matches. Fritz has won 55%. So if you're going on the bare matchup below it was, a couple of years ago, you would be thinking, well, Sinner's pretty short here at minus 345. But as you said, Sinner's a much improved player since then. One of those meetings was 2021. The other one last year, 2023, a year and a half ago. So, Sinner is a different animal since then. But as I said, I think the matchup isn't that bad for Taylor Fritz. If you look at what these two have done this US Open so far, I mentioned on the live show yesterday, Sinner's service points won and return points won total was 118. Now it's dropped a little bit to 117, but still excellent. Fritz on 112, so a little bit further back. The other stat I think of relevance is what these two guys have done against the current top 10 this season. Sinner's stats are very, very good indeed. 73% win rate in those matches and a service points won and return points won total of 107. So it doesn't get better than that, really, against top 10 opponents to come out with 107 and you win 73% of their matches. Fritz isn't bad. 50% win rate and a service points won and return points won total of 99. That's decent. It's, Sinner's numbers are really, really good and Fritz's are good. That for his ranking, to have won half his matches against the current top 10 and come out with a total of 99 is pretty decent. But the slight limitation of his game kind of shows through a bit on those stats. He's only won 31.6% of return points in those matches against the top 10. And that's where he's perhaps going to lose this match, is not being able to break Sinner often enough. Sinner is a much improved server now than he was a year or two ago, certainly when their priors were played, certainly a better server. I feel like it's going to be a tough match for Sinner. I do fancy him to win it, but I certainly wouldn't back him. I think you'll get bigger than minus 345 in play if you want to back Sinner. I've got a couple of leans here. I think it's all going on Sinner to win it, but in a quite a tough and lengthy match. I don't think he'll have this all his own way at all.
Before we go on to the leans, just before we go on to the leans, Sean, I mean, the weather for Sunday is quite cool. It's 22 degrees. It's going to be, it's not going to be hot. Is that first, from my opinion, that would probably suit Sinner more. I think would Fritz want it hotter and the ball's flying around a little bit, or is it not real much advantage to either of them?
I don't think it makes that much difference. I mean, obviously Fritz played a night match, last night. He came through that. I can't imagine either of them would want it hot. Sinner, I can't imagine would want it hot. Fritz, I can't imagine would want another test of stamina after a 5-setter and a tough 4 against Zverev. I'm not sure it makes that much difference. I think that the conditions will be ideal for both of them. It's an afternoon match, isn't it? 2 p.m. I think local time start. I think that would suit both of them.
Just remember that match is on Sunday, and Bet Rivers do have over 50 markets. It's very early, and there'll be loads of more markets being added as the countdown to the US Open men's singles final starts. Just on the pre-tournament form, obviously Sinner won Cincinnati, so he's on a brilliant unbeaten run at the moment. And Taylor Fritz had a very, very indifferent start, or coming into. He's had a real poor year actually by his standards on the hard courts. He lost in the first round of Cincinnati, the tournament before the US Open against Nakashima. He lost in Montreal to Korda. Lost in the Olympics to Musetti. So what he's done here is quite exceptional, really, turn his form around. But in the early hours of trading, the trading's only been open for a few hours now. We're 5 hours after the TFO match has finished, and the early money is for Fritz. And I'm not surprised by that because people very rarely like to bet a minus 345 shot in the final. They want to get with a dog. You can see when crowds cheer for the dog in the finals, nobody wants to bet a minus 345. And obviously it's an American player, and the American betting public want the American to do well, so I can understand that value there. Sean, you've looked at some of the markets, the other markets. Look at the leans. What are you sort of fancying here?
The two I've kind of earmarked for the leans here. Over 21.5 player games for Jannik Sinner, plus money, plus 102. The thinking on that is that he's not going to win this in straight sets. I feel like he's going to win this 4 probably. Maybe Fritz even pushing him to 5 because, Fritz is massively motivated here, obviously. The first Grand Slam final, there might be some nerves around for him, but, the level that he's played, certainly in the last couple of matches, I think that level will be good enough to at least give Sinner a very good match. I wasn't massively impressed with Sinner yesterday against Draper. I mean, there were so many chances he had to break Draper, and it wasn't Draper saving a lot of those break points with aces, though he did save one or two. A lot of them were neutral rallies, and Sinner was just a little bit impatient and a few sort of poor errors. I wasn't sold on him, Sinner, at all yesterday. He did what he had to do, but against an opponent that was clearly not fit. But I feel like the level Fritz is playing will push Jannik Sinner here. So if Sinner is to win it, obviously the minus 345 doesn't appeal. So over 21.5 player games, that basically means he's going to win this in sort of 4-ish or potentially 5. Obviously, if he wins this in straight sets, you've lost the bet. If he wins it, even if it's 7-6, 7-5, 7-5, I can't see that happening. I can't see a situation here where Fritz doesn't win at least a set, unless he's severely compromised by fatigue. But I wouldn't have thought so. It was only 3 hours 18 minutes, that TFO match. So that's not a 4 or 5 hour epic. And obviously this is Fritz's dream match. It's his career goal. He must have dreamed about this a lot, throughout his life. So I can't imagine fatigue will be a major issue. So over 21.5 player games for Sinner, that's plus 102 Bet Rivers, or for the big price punt, Sinner to win it 3-1 seems a sensible option. 3.4 plus 240 Bet Rivers. I feel like that's the way it's going to go. Sinner to win it, but not easily.
It was only 15 minutes longer, the Fritz match, than the Sinner game. And Sinner's match was 7-5, 7-6, 6-2, and this was a 5-setter.
Is that right?
Yeah, 15 minutes.
That second set, I think there was a lot of delays, though, wasn't there, in the Sinner Draper match? I mean, Draper was throwing up for a lot of the time, and when he wasn't throwing up, he was changing his trainers and changing his shirt and wiping up the sick off the court. There was, I think, a lot of the delays were due to that.
Sounds like a normal Friday night for a London boy in New York.
Well, it's a normal situation for Draper. He's constantly being sick on the court, isn't he? It's a big problem for him. But yeah, there were an awful lot of delays in that match. I think that's probably why the match times were as close as they are. I mean, 3 hours 18 minutes is pretty quick for a 5-setter, and obviously 3 hours is quite long for a 3-setter. But as I say, there were a lot of delays, medical timeouts as well in the Sinner match. So yeah, a lot of that was Sinner probably sitting down and watching Draper do whatever he was doing on the other end of the court.
Now, I vowed to you to never mention it again, but the last time Fritz was in probably a biggest match, his biggest match other than this week, was back in 2022 in the quarterfinal of Wimbledon, where he played Rafael Nadal. And
I don't remember that one.
We have very, very painful memories of that match, helping a very nice tickets on Taylor Fritz. And after the match, we come on this, we sort of complained about how unlucky we were, we moaned about the performance. Fritz tactically didn't have any idea how to beat Nadal, and we sort of questioned his tactics. If
he should have had an idea.
He's one-dimensional. He's one-dimensional. Have you seen enough of his game to think that he's got the game to mix it up against Sinner? He's got to change it, hasn't he?
Yeah, it's just a different matchup. That situation against Nadal, he was constantly playing the backhand that he's comfortable with, which is cross court. If he'd have played the backhand down the line that day against Nadal couldn't move to his right. So it was a no-brainer, really, to throw in quite a few backhands down the line, but he didn't want to do it. I think it was James Blake, wasn't it, we spoke to a while ago. It was after that match, wasn't it? And he said that Fritz just isn't comfortable doing that. Well, okay, but that's not going to win you major tournaments, is it? I'm not comfortable doing that. Well, great, okay, don't do it then, but you aren't going to win a major then, are you? So he has put a little bit more variety in, but he still isn't comfortable, as I said, coming to the net. If I was Darren Cahill and I was going through this match with Sinner, you would be looking at putting in those sort of short slices and putting Fritz where he isn't comfortable. He still isn't comfortable at the forecourt. He can volley, but sometimes it's not great. It's not a natural volleyer by any means. It's not something that comes easily to him. He clearly isn't comfortable doing that. So in terms of the variety, I still think Fritz if Fritz does add a net game, he can be top 5, I would suggest, but it doesn't seem like he's going to do that. So he's going to have to beat Sinner from the back of the court. But Sinner, he's not massively comfortable at the net. He's not massively comfortable with the variety, the kind of play that is going to be needed to beat Fritz. So this is going to be an out and out baseline battle, which is what Taylor Fritz wants. He doesn't want people bringing in the variety. So if Sinner's able to bring in them short slices and make Fritz uncomfortable, then that for me that would make his task a lot easier. Fritz does only have that one way to play it, but at the moment he's doing it very, very well.
Yep. So the general conclusion for the final of the US Open is Jannik Sinner probably going to be too good for Taylor Fritz, but at -345 on the money line, absolutely no value for us at all. Probably will win it, and if you want to bet it -345 or put it in a parlay on the NFL games, that's entirely up to you. But for us, we think there's better value. Sean is going to go for 2 leans. Sean, if you could just let us know your leans.
Yeah, Sinner to win over 21.5 player games, +102 Bet Rivers, and the other one is the bigger priced option, Sinner to win this by 3-1 at +240 with Bet Rivers.
I'm pretty much on the same page as Sean, but I'm going to go for just the over 38.5 games here at -117. I do think Fritz could take a set, and I do think there's a good opportunity that we get a tiebreak, which is always good. Obviously, we need 3 tiebreaks of a straight sets match to win on the over, a cash on the over 38.5. But I do think the crowd, Sinner will have a lull, and I think Fritz will get some advantage. And unlike Jack Draper, who had opportunities, I think Fritz will be able to capitalise on those. Okay, that's been it for the US Open. It's been a fabulous 2 weeks. Thank you very much for all your views, all your subscriptions, everyone who's commented on the content here. Thank you very much all for your time over the last 2 weeks. I've enjoyed it as per usual. Really had a great time over in New York as well. Thanks to Bet Rivers for myself and Sean being able to go to New York and watch some tennis and supply some content for you on social media. Me and Sean are going to have a break on the ATP Tour. There's a break next week, so there is no tennis next week. And I think they go to the Asian swing. It's a weird start again, isn't it? So we'll probably be back in just over a week's time now, looking at the action on the ATP Tour here on Game Bet Match. The tennis action on the channel doesn't stop. I'll be back with Rory Giovanni tomorrow previewing the WTA action. And obviously it's a week, there's no major soccer across Europe as well with the international break. But the daily shows every day at 11 o'clock Eastern time with all the crew will be going on Monday to Friday as well, giving you the daily action where the money is being placed all across the sporting world. Remember to download this podcast, Betting Weekly Game Bet Match. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Over 5,000 subscribers we hit yesterday, so thank you very much for that at Betting Weekly Studios. And obviously follow us again across socials at Because We Will Win. Sean, thank you as always for your time. Nice to get you up nice and early on a Saturday morning. Enjoy the rest of your weekend and enjoy your break. You got anything planned for your break?
Not really, no. I mean, it's because obviously we've got Lagan. We can't, he's only just gone back to school. I can't really take him out. So, well, I could, but I'd have a knock at the door, I think, from Southend Council. So I can't really do that. So just a bit of a break, just a bit of a mental refresh. We've been doing this for about nine months now, haven't we? So it's you don't get too many breaks in the tennis season. You get a couple.
It's their only week until when during the whole season before the end. Obviously when the end of the season comes in November time, you get November to January. But this is the only week in the break. There's a break.
It was. I think there was 2 last year, wasn't there? But they keep changing the calendar. But yeah, this is just a nice week off for me. Yeah, I think it's Wednesday the 18th that Chengdu starts. So I guess we'll probably be back on the Tuesday before that, the 17th, I would imagine. But yeah, just a nice little refresh for me, just a bit of a wind down, and then back on it for the Asian swing, which I always really enjoy as well.
Yeah, we're looking forward to that. We're looking forward to betting Nishioka again at nice prices.
I'm sure his name will crop up. Yeah,
on the Asian swing. I'm heading to Greece for the week on Monday, going out there just for a little week away, but I will be back throughout the week on live shows and also on the Premier League podcast on Thursday. Okay, that's been it for Game Bet Match. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Good luck with your bets, and we think Jannik Sinner will win, but obviously for American tennis, it'll be great to see Taylor Fritz become the first American men's player since Andy Roddick in 2003 to win the US Open crown. Good luck to everyone. Take care, and I'll see you in a week or so. Take care.